Hello, good evening to all. Welcome to technical session 9B. On behalf of Global Knowledge Foundation, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the sixth international conference on information and communication technology on competitive strategies, in concurrent with sixth international conference on smart transfer computing and communication through Zoom. We are thankful everyone to present on this platform to go along with us digitally in these unpredictable circumstances of COVID-19, making this conference more productive. We wish everyone and their families protected time. We all together pass this soon. Also, I want to introduce you all to the chair for this session. Professor Meenakshi Arya. Professor Meenakshi Arya is a professor of computer science at SRM Institute of Science and Technology. Just a minute. Vadapalani campus, Chennai, and an alumnus of the prestigious College of Engineering, Pune. She completed PhD in the field of biometric watermarking and has field patent for the work done. She has a diverse academic and professional experience background, spanning more than 16 years, and has served in many engineering colleges across the length and breadth of the country in various capacities. Her research interests include data science, analytics, machine learning, deep learning, and digital image processing. She has published papers in reputed journals and on conference, and as many book chapters are credited. She is senior IEEE member, fellow of IETE, and lifetime member of ISTE. She serves on the editor and review board of a multitude of journals related to computer science. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Jay. Thanks.
Also, there's a special note for presenters. It will be 8 minutes for presentation and 2 minutes for question and answer. On 7 minutes, I will raise a gentle reminder. So kindly all participants while the presentation is going on, kindly mute it. So we can start 9B. Ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jay, for the introduction. So as already informed by Jay, every presenter has 9 minutes total presentation time for you, which includes 2 minutes of question answer also. Yes. So I would like to invite Pooja Mudgil to present her research work on comparative analysis on ontology-based contextual senses approach for search engine. Over to you, Pooja.
Good morning, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. Please start.
Ma'am, I am not able to share my screen.
Just a second, we'll have to give you the rights. Just wait.
Yes, you can share the screen now.
Are you able to do it now, Pooja?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please.
Is my presentation is visible to you, ma'am?
No, I can't. Yeah, now it's visible. Please go ahead.
A very good evening to session chairs, session coordinators, and all research scholars. My topic is comparative analysis on ontology-based contextual senses approaches for search engine. These are the content of my presentation. Okay, introduction. World Wide Web is a huge repository of...
Pooja, sorry. Can you please press on the resume slideshow? It's not in the slideshow mode.
1 minute, ma'am. Sorry. Let me share one more time. Okay, is it visible now, ma'am?
You can just press F5.
Yes, sir, I've done that, but
yes,
now
it's visible.
It's visible now? Okay. Okay. World Wide Web is a huge repository of web documents available on the internet, and it allows users to distribute information widely. Even the young generation studying in the school, searching the web for the fulfillment of its aspirations. So it is a challenge for a search engine to serve the user with more relevant documents related to their requirements. Next is search engine. Search engine can be defined as a searchable database which collects information on the web pages on the internet and then indexes the information and then stores that end result in a huge database where it can be quickly searched. Moreover, with the enormous size of web, search engine is producing too many results to a user. But for a general user, it is very time consuming to go through all the results to fulfill his need for the information. For example, in this figure, the user fires the query Spring. He is interested in the information related to season Spring, but he is getting the result related to the Java Spring. So thus, with relevant result, it is also important that highly relevant should be placed at top position by the search engine. Next is contextual senses. Contextual senses are the different meanings of the same word. For example, a mouse can be interpreted as computer mouse also and an animal rat also. Next is ontology. Ontology is a well-structured system which supports to provide the relationship among the different concepts. This is an example of an ontology of a personal computer, which is showing the relationship between the different components of the computer. This diagram has been made with the help of Protege tool, in which the personal computer is a subclass of thing, and then these all input devices, output devices, network is a subclass of personal computer, and accordingly all the for example, this personal computer, it has two individual laptop and desktop, as we both know, as we all know. So in that way we have constructed the ontology. Next is ontology languages. For developing the ontology, we need the ontology languages. The first one is RDF, that is Resource Description Framework. It is a common ontology-based semantic search language used for transferring the complex data. Here, each statement is separated into three parts. The first is the resource, that we can also say it is identified by URL. Second is the label, or we can say it is a predicate or the property. And the third one is the information content. The next ontology language is ontology interchange language. It includes three important aspects. First, system based on frames. Next is the description logics, which describe the knowledge in terms of concepts and role restrictions. And the last one is web coding guidelines to incorporate this language with the World Wide Web. The next is DML, that is DARPA Agent Markup Language. It is based on XML and RDF. DARPA is a project agency by USA which is making DML to incorporate an artificial intelligence system that allows the program to understand information on its own and to communicate with other programmers and engines independently. The next one, the most important one, is OWL, that is Web Ontology Language. It is a language for semantic web, which is mostly used by all the researchers to describe ideas related to objects, group of things, and their relationships. We can also enrich our query with the help of OWL, and it helps in improving the quality of information retrieval by using ontologies for query enrichment and using the proper following the standards. Okay. The analysis of existing search engines. The first one is inverted indexing model. This model has used the partial indexing for maintaining the memory consumption. But in this model, it has to need to be improved as semantics are not considered. There are two things that are most important in the concept of search engine. First is the text, and second is the logic, that is the context behind the text. So inverted indexing models that has not used the context behind that model. The second is an intelligent ontology-based semantic information retrieval model. It has used fuzzy rough sets and LDA were employed with feature selection model. But here the response time is response time has increased because it is focuses on more on irrelevant data. The third is a semantic textual similarity measures for case-based retrieval of augmented graphs. This model has used with the help of graphs, it is finding the text similarity. But this model does not handle all types of input, as our worldwide, all the documents are semi-structured or unstructured, so it cannot handle all type of data. And the next is the fuzzy C-means clustering. It has used the document store using the modified TF-IDF clustering algorithm and summarization. But problem is that it has not used the contextual senses or ambiguity is not considered in that case. These are the analysis of the existing search engine models. So what are the key findings behind that? Due to the more data in the system, the search engine is getting more complex, And next, the web databases are generally unstructured in their display of information, and the user is facing a lot of problem, that is an information overload problem. So in order to get information related to users' need, the feature selection process must be integrated into current artificial intelligence models, which are constrained by a limited technical approach. Next is the types of search engine. The first is the traditional search engines, in which user has written the query, and from the database the language interpreter are there, and from the database the response is generating, and accordingly by interpreting by converted into a normal understandable language with the help of language generator, the output results are given. First is the traditional search engine. The second is the semantic search engine, and the difference between the traditional and the semantic search engine is that it is using AI based NLP engines. With the help of that, we are focusing on the context of the keyword. Next is the text or keyword based search engine. Here we are focusing on the keywords that are for example, we have one document. Okay, in that document mouse is written 50 times, but the problem is that if mouse has written 50 times, it doesn't, computer mouse for example, it is written 50 times, but the problem is that there are many web pages which are incorporating words without any use, and due to that they are coming on the top position, but that result is not at all useful for the users. The next is the ontology based search engines. This ontology based search engine using the structure of words like with their synonyms, entities, classes and relationships, and considered for query extension related to particular domain. So if we are talking about ontology based search engines, we are talking about the domain specific ontologies. Thus more precise and accurate results are produced. This is an example of ontology and contextual senses based search engine. So here is the query processor, user had fed it the query, and this is the database. Here in the database, the crawler has given the with the help of World Wide Web, it has retrieved the web pages, and indexer, what indexer are doing, that we are going to this is a comparative analysis. So in my next research papers, what we are going to implement is that this indexer will extract the web pages from the database, and with the help of WordNet. What is a WordNet? WordNet is providing the different contextual senses of a single keyword. So indexer will provide the contextual senses from the WordNet, and it also will take the help of ontology. With the help of ontology, all the synonyms or the related keywords, classes, and their relationship will get retrieved, and also the web pages from the database. So by using these three techniques, WordNet, ontologies, and the normal World Wide Web, we will maintain the index according to the context of the keyword. For example, field is a piece of land also, and it is a branch of knowledge also, and accordingly the document IDs will be generated.
Sorry to interrupt, you have last 1 minute.
Hello. Okay, so a better results will be given. So these are the search engine challenges. I will not describe it. Okay, for example, the search engine challenges are the database limitations. Okay, because database is so huge, so limitations are there in the database. User way of searching. The user way of searching is that we have short sentences also, long sentences also, so that is the problem. And the limitation with the NLP also, that it obviously it will extract the entities, synonyms, but slang word, phrases, these are the main problems with the help of them, which is not handled by NLP. And the security problem also, some search engine have had hacking problem also. Sometimes Yahoo was also facing the hacking problem, due to which most of the users had transferred it to the Google. Okay, so this is the efficient search engine that we can develop. Here the query, the user will fire the query, and query will get enriched with the help of ontology. Ontology will provide the more important keyword related to a query, and accordingly information will be retrieved and more useful results will be given to a user. So this is our conclusion. This study includes the study of traditional and semantic search engines, which is getting more complex nowadays. So here in this survey article, we discussed about ontology based contextual sense method and various searching parameters which may make search engines more efficient. So to build a semantic search engine, selection of features is important, artificial intelligence architectures are important, or some soft computing algorithms are important. We can provide the classifiers, and more relevant results will get produced, and also offers the security and speed also. And these are the references. Thank you so much, ma'am. Any queries, please?
Yeah, thank you so much, Pooja.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good, a very different topic that you are doing your research on. You may stop your screen share.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just had two queries. One is how much of a, like I couldn't in your, if it is a survey paper, I couldn't see a lot of literature being discussed when you were talking about the concept. So how many papers or what kind of a literature have you reference to?
Ma'am, I have referenced around 20 to 25 to 50 research papers, and in my paper also, I have not included all in the PPTs, but I have referred 50 references, 50 research papers. Actually, it is my PhD topic, and I'm working on that. So I have read about all the ontologies also, indexing mechanisms also, search engine also, and accordingly, I'm incorporating all these things to get a better results.
Okay, just one input from my end. So whenever we do a literature survey, the end of literature survey should be something called as a research gap identification, which helps you in formulation of your objectives. So again, I could not see that you have identified a specific research gap, and then how have you formulated your objective? Probably when you are taking your literature survey ahead, you can, there should be a clear research gap that you have identified from the literature survey. So that slide also you can include it in your next presentation.
Actually, ma'am, I have included in my research, paper. By chance, I have not included here, but I'll do that, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, because
Thank
when
you so
you're
much.
presenting, for me to understand what
Yes,
you have inferred, it is very, very essential.
definitely.
Very well
Thank you
done.
so
Thank
much,
you, sir.
ma'am, for your kind input. Thank you so much.
I would like to next invite Mr. V. Ramu to present his paper on comparative analysis of multi-level inverters with various pulse wave modulation techniques. Mr. V. Ramu.
Yes, madam. Good evening, madam. This is V. Ramu. Actually, I have done a paper on comparative analysis of multi-level inverters with the different types of PWM technique. Shall I share the PPTs, madam? Now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. My paper ID is 144. My co-authors are Professor P. Satish Kumar and Professor G.N. Srinivas. So actually, we might have seen the inverters in our home. That is two-level inverter. So with the two-level inverters, we may get some torque pulsations in the fan motors. So in order to avoid those torque pulsations, it is better to design multi-level inverters. So these multi-level inverters are different types. One is flying capacitor multi-level inverter, neutral point clamped multi-level inverter, and cascade hedge bridge multi-level inverters. So main disadvantage of these topologies were the large number of devices incorporated and complexity in the balancing capacitor voltage. So as the switches are increased, power losses can be increased and hence overall efficiency will be reduced. So in order to increase the efficiency or in order to reduce the losses, it is better to implement one reduced switch count multi-level inverters. So that I have designed a 17-level multi-level inverters, getting higher number of voltage levels using multi-level inverters with reduced number of switches is possible by using either symmetrical DC sources or asymmetrical DC sources. So this is actually this. I have compared existing multi-level inverter with the proposed multi-level inverter. This is the existing multi-level. This is one of the existing multi-level inverters in which it uses 20 number of switches and 4 number of DC sources. This is the 17-level multi-level inverters. So in order to get 17 level, we have one formula 4n plus 1. So n is the number of H bridges. Here there are 4 number of H bridges are there. So 4 into 4 is 16 plus 1 is 17 level. You are going to get 17 level multi-level inverter. So these are the switching sequences of switches, different switches from S1 to S16 and SA to SD in cascade hedge bridge. This is in the existing multi-level inverter with level shift pulse width modulation technique method. So by applying those switching sequences, we are going to get the output voltage like this. This is the first one is out. This sorry. First one is the output voltage, and the second one is output current. And this is the THD analysis. In the THD analysis, for voltage, we have got 12.35%. For current, it is 1.02. And in a phase shift pulse width modulation technique, we have got I have got THD as 9% and voltage THD as 9% and current THD as 2.01%. And this is nearest level control pulse width modulation. Means all these are the different types of pulse width modulation techniques. I'm comparing all these results. So in these results, here the THD of the voltage is 9.26 and THD of current is 1.001. So almost all the voltage and current waveforms will look like same, but internally THD value will become different. THD means total harmonic distortion. And this is the P word, means phase opposition disposition pulse width modulation technique. So these are the output voltage and output current waveform, and this is the THD, total harmonic distortion of current and voltage. And this is about anti-phase opposition disposition pulse width modulation technique, for which I've got the total harmonic distortion as 7.67%, and for current it is 1.15%. So this is anti-phase opposition disposition pulse width modulation technique. And till now, up till now, we have discussed the existing one, but I have proposed one multi-level inverter in which I have used only 10 number of switches, by which we are going to get 17 levels. But in previously, when I have taken this existing existing multi-level inverter, there I have used 20 number of 20 number of switches. But here only 10, with 10 number of switches, I have got the same 17 level multi-level inverter. So in this, the DC main means this is a main circuit, this is a main circuit, and this will be the these two are the sub modules. So in the main circuit, 3 VDC, we have 3 VDC voltage. So this 3 VDC will be getting by taking this formula, that is VDC main NSM plus 1 into VDC sub. That means NSM means sub modules. Total number of sub modules are here 2. Sub modules are 2. So 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 into VDC. So we got the main module voltage is 3 VDC. Likewise, as the number of sub modules are going to be increased, here I have taken only 2 sub modules. If I increase the number of sub modules, then we can increase the number of levels, number of multi levels, like 17 level, 21 level, 53 level, 71 level. Likewise, we can able to increase the number of levels as the number of submodules are increased. But as we increase the number of switches, then the switching losses may be increased. So that's why I have sticked on to only 17 level multi-level inverter. So, and these are the switching pulses for S1 to S10 switching pulses, and this is for S6 to S10. So these are the different circuits in order to have what you call the different voltage levels. So here this is a circuit which represents 8 volts DC voltage, and this is 7 VDC, and this is 6 VDC. 1 minute, I will show. See, if I get 8 volts, then 7 volts, 5 volts, 4 volts. Likewise, you will get a stepped voltage like this up to 8 levels, and this is 0th level. In the negative also, we are going to have the same voltage. So that means this is approximately when we get different levels like this, when we are going to have a pure sine wave like this. So whenever a pure sine wave is applied to the loads, then there will be no pulsation in the motors or fan motors. So our main intention is to reduce the number of harmonics in the sine wave. So in order to reduce the number of harmonics in the sine wave, it is better to increase the number of levels. Suppose suppose if you use in our homes, we have we are using only two-level multi-level inverters. In such case, we are not getting a perfect sine wave. Sine wave is obtained only when a stepped wave is considered. This stepped wave is nothing but it is a multi-level inverter. These are the switching pulses for 70-level inverters. And this is the total harmonic distortion with the level shift pulse with
Dear
modulation.
presenter, you will last 1 minute.
Yes, sir. I will show final comparison list. So this is the comparison of total harmonic distortion of output voltage and output current. When compared with the existing system, the proposed system has, see, if you see level shift pulse with modulation technique, the percentage total harmonic distortion is 12.35. Here it is 8.31 only, 8.13 only. Likewise, if you see all the different pulse with modulation technique from level shift to APOD, the THD is very less when compared to CHD. In the output voltage, in the output current also, the THD will be very less when compared to the existing system. And these are the comparative analysis when the 17 level is proposed and existing system is considered. Then the number of switches which are used are only 10, but in the normal means existing system it is only 20 switches, and the capacitors are used 8 switches here. Yeah, sorry, 8 capacitors, but here there are no capacitors. So that's why this is a main advantage of the proposed system in which there are no capacitors and the number of switches will be somewhat less, so that the transient response will be very fast in this case. So these are the different which I have told. Phase in disposition means phase opposition disposition levels pulse with modulation, and this is anti-phase by opposition phase shift pulse with modulation technique, nearest level control PWM technique, and in this nearest I am going to consider half height method. And so finally what I concluded is this paper has proposed a reduced switch count multi-level inverter, 17-level inverter, in contrast to GHB. So here I have used different pulse with modulation, like level shift pulse with modulation technique, phase shift pulse with the modulation technique, NLC pulse with modulation technique. So from the analysis carried out on various pulse with modulation technique, it is clear that output voltage and output current has diminished to a great level in proposed multi-level inverter in contrast to CHB. So in other hand, the VRMS and IRMS and output power are also found to be increased, which has a great potential use to integrate within renewable energy sources. So that means we can implement it to renewable energy sources also. So whenever it is connected to renewable energy source to grid, then this type of multi-level inverter is most useful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ramu, for your presentation, but I just have a small query. In your title, it just says comparative analysis of multi-level inverters. But in your presentation, you have also talked about a proposed system. So that proposed system, what does it, like it is not focusing in your title. So probably you can look at reworking on your title to introduce the proposed system also that you have proposed, because there's a system which you have proposed on the basis of what your conclusions have been, right?
Actually, what I did in my research is I have proposed one multi-level inverter, madam, and I compared the results of this proposed system with existing system. So that's why I've taken the title as comparative analysis of multi-level inverters with different pulse with modulation technique.
Yeah, but that gives an impression as if your paper is a literature survey paper rather than something which you have proposed, where it should be focusing more on the technique that you have rather than on the on the comparative that you've done. Thank you so much for your presentation. All the best.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Yeah. I would now like to invite presenter number 3, Ms. Madhu, to present her work on complexity analysis of wireless body area networks using soft computing.
Yes, ma'am. Presenting, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Madhushalini. I am from St. Francis College. I am here to present my work complexity analysis of wireless body area networks using soft computing technique. This is my presentation outline. Introduction and background of wireless body area networks, graphs identified in literature. The three objectives which we used in this paper and concluded. Wireless body area network. In this slide, it represents wireless body area network. The first tier represents body area network, which consists of various sensors present on the body, and information is communicated to higher tiers. Wireless body area networks have been deployed in a variety of scenarios, and there have been few instances where they have implemented using soft computing technique for indoor hospital environment application. In this work, we extend the scope of wireless body area networks, which involves indoor patients whose vitals need to be monitored and sent to the nursing station wirelessly. Such scenario is more important in an ICU, where vitals of a large number of patients need to be monitored and communicate in real time. Here we study on different stages, namely neighbor, discovery, data routing, and shortest path to provide uninterrupted monitoring of parameters with the help of sensors. The basic idea of AND technique lies on the ants communicating among the other individual nodes based on pheromone trails from one point to another point in search of food. It has well proven in many of applications wireless sensor networks. The sensor nodes work ad hoc with limited resources of communication. Hence, conserving the total energy consumption of the sensor nodes along the network and finding the shortest path increases the overall efficiency of wireless body area network. In next slide, we represent the gaps identified in literature. Efficient routing protocols have been designed to improve these parameters and minimize the traffic load from source to destination. Further, whenever a node in a network fails, various data routing algorithms have been implemented in searching for alternate paths in an adaptive fashion. Clustering using AND technique helps the network to reduce the load during data communication. Many protocols implemented various routing protocol using clustering technique for its scalability in wireless sensor networks. It organizes its clusters with the cluster head formation in order to receive and transmission of its data from all other members in its group. The clusters formed using AND help to resolve this issue by continuously adapting to the network changes by using the probability of the choosing the next hop based on pheromone value and energy of the node. The route selection is based on the minimum cost function. Further, BFS technique with AND technique is implemented to ensure the complete.
Madam Madhu, your presentation is not moving. You are still on the gap identified in literature slide.
Yes, I'm explaining about the gaps identified literature only.
All right, fine. Please go.
The route selection is based on the minimum cost function. Further, BFS technique with AND technique is implemented to ensure the complete coverage while ants discover the route from source to destination. Next slide, we implemented the objectives. Next slide, proposed algorithms, route discovery using ant colony technique. These were the algorithms which we proposed for the route discovery using ant colony technique for cluster-based technique. The next slide, comparison of time complexities of proposed algorithms of wireless body area networks. Since the arts start randomly from BAN to NSC, the forward messages are transmitted until they reach the intermediate nodes in the BFS tree, where the maximum height of the tree is D. Hence, the complexity is O of D. Since every node in the network must store the routing information in the form of routing table, a leaf node must be hold a list with D-1 ancestors list. Thus, the space complexity of the algorithms is O of D. In this work, we presented the simulation of cluster-based and technique for data routing in wireless body area networks for 49 nodes. Simulation were performed in Omnet++ to show the performance of the routing protocols using ANT technique to handle the transmission of the critical information without any router. Next, we conclude the processed algorithm performs better than existing protocols by 10% increase in throughput and nearly 30% reduced network traffic while choosing the shortest path. This approach monitors the patient data continuously and send to the base station through MDC, which act as cluster heads. It has been observed that the parameters improvement has been significant with 45% higher throughput and 40% reduced network traffic while choosing the shortest path using clusters with the ant colony technique. These are few references. These are few selected references which we used in this work. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Madhu.
Thank you. Thank
Just
you,
like to know that you are using ant colony are you using ant colony for optimization, or are you using ant colony as an algorithm? I could somehow not gauge what are you using ant colony for.
And
you are using ant
Yeah,
colony
can I
algorithm,
answer?
right?
Can I
Yeah.
answer it,
Yeah,
Ms.
please go ahead.
Meenakshi?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is for finding out the shortest path.
Okay. So that's what, but you are also mentioning about breadth first search. So breadth first search
Yeah,
is
we are
again a technique.
ensuring that each and every node is being participated while discovering the route process.
Okay. So probably the process can be explained through a flow chart or a more
Oh
clear
yeah,
diagram,
because
you know,
the
which
time
is,
because of the time constraints, we couldn't able to put the flow, the diagram, the model of it. But because the title more matches with the time complexity.
right.
So we felt based upon the time constraints, we couldn't able to put in that, include in the slide.
Yes, but just a small input from my end. So whenever you have an algorithm with a exponential time complexity, or an algorithm with a, let's say, polynomial time complexity n square, n square is not a very good time complexity to have. Probably you can look at some divide and conquer technique where you can reduce your time complexity, or there are much better algorithms rather than BFS. You can look at prims, Kruskal's for your best path, deduction. So there are very superior algorithms with lower time complexity available for shortest paths. So you can probably look at them also. Distrust being a very popular algorithm. So you can.
Sure. I will go through that.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for your
Considering
presentation.
input. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
thank you.
After this, I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay for doing a presentation on his topic, prediction of employee attrition using stacked ensemble method.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I share the screen, ma'am?
Yes, please go ahead.
Please stick to your time. We have limited time, so.
Okay, sir. Can you see my screen, ma'am?
It's visible. Please go ahead.
Hello everyone, I'm Sanjay and of PES University EC campus, and today I'll be giving presentation on our paper prediction of employee attrition using stacked ensemble method, and our paper ID is 194. So in this paper, I'll first begin with introduction, problem statement, literature survey, architecture, ensemble model, and I'll finish it off with conclusion and future work. So what is employee attrition really? It is described as the natural process by which staff members quit the workforce. There are basically two types of attrition, which is voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary attrition occurs when employees decide to leave on their own. Some part of the voluntary attrition is inevitable, such as when employee is retiring due to old age, or when an employee is quitting the workforce to relocate to new place. In case of involuntary attrition, the organization decides to let go of the employee. Maybe it may be due to their poor performance, or it may be due to their poor performance, or maybe the company may be downsizing. No matter the type, after a certain threshold of attrition, it can make big dent to the company's net income and also its culture as well. So employee attrition is becoming a huge issue in businesses. Hiring new staff is always more time consuming, costly, and risk associated with it rather than retaining the existing personnel. So our project's objective is to predict employee attrition before he or she departs the organization. This includes calculating various factors, using various factors such as the distance from home, how happy is the employee, and what is the age of them. Even gender also plays a role. So what we decided was, instead of using a single machine learning technique, we decided to use a technique known as stacked ensemble approach, which uses a bunch of machine learning approaches together. So as I said, our project aim is to create a stack ensemble approach so that the resultant model will be robust and will produce accurate results when compared to individual models themselves. So what is stacked ensemble really? So in that there are two layers. First layer is made up of base learners, which has numerous models, and the input data is used to train them parallelly. And using the output of these models, the meta learner uses them as input. The meta learner uses the output of base learners as input and gives the final prediction. So we'll now look at some of the related work done in this field. The first paper, in this paper, they explore different ensemble techniques such as bagging, boosting, and they found out that bagging algorithm performed the best, specifically AdaBoost. In this paper, they looked at basic machine learning models such as decision tree, random forest, AdaBoost, and so on, and they produced 3 ensemble methods, and they found out that the combination of decision tree and logistic regression had the highest performance. In these two papers, they used a technique known as voted ensemble method. Basically, every machine learning algorithm gets a vote. So, and in this paper, they assigned a different weight for each algorithm. And in the fourth paper, they assigned equal weight, but instead of random forest as the second model, they used multi-layer perceptron. So when it comes to system architecture, the first few steps of it is very similar to any other classification problem, that is feature extraction, data pre-processing, and splitting the data in train and test. But in stacking, the training data is further splitted into k folds, and the k-1 folds are used to train the base learners. So now that the base learner is trained, it gives its prediction on the kth fold. So after giving its prediction, it is used as an input to train the meta learner. So now that both base learners and meta learner is trained, test data is used to evaluate our models and give the final prediction. For our ensemble model, we decided to use random forest as the meta learner. And for base learners, we decided to use logistic regression, decision tree, SVM, Gaussian NB, gradient boosting, AdaBoosting, and XGBoost. So the reason for using random forest, I'll discuss it in the upcoming slide. For implementation, we have decided to use IBM HR employee dataset, which we got from Kaggle. And it had numerous features such as age, department, distance from home, education, and how happy the employee is, and so on. For the output attrition column, the features didn't have equal ratio of values. That is, the number of S's were far less than the number of no's. Hence, the data set was imbalanced. To make sure that the ratio of S and no's is near to 50-50, we explore different oversampling and combination of oversampling and undersampling techniques. And we found out that adaptive synthetic oversampling method gave us the maximum performance. As I said, we have decided to use random forest because when we explore different machine learning algorithms for selecting the meta model, meta learner, we found out that the random forest had the highest accuracy. And this is the output that we obtained, and we got accuracy of 89.11%. So why should we use ensemble method? The one and most obvious factor is it is robust in nature, since it uses heterogeneous models for prediction. And as we've seen, we've used more than 5 models as base learners. And also, ensemble method can easily identify the important factors that contribute to employee attrition. And also it can identify which base learner is able to learn better. And it will give more weightage to that base model implicitly. And also, as we've seen in the literature survey, the ensemble method wasn't much discussed. Stacking ensemble method wasn't much discussed, and we have obtained the highest accuracy among all the discussed research papers. And for the future scope, we can definitely develop a suggestion engine to assist the HR managers to retain individuals who are likely to depart in the near future. And basically, they can do this by providing them with incentives such as increasing their pay or changing their level of job or giving them home which are nearer to work. We can also build a custom model depending upon the type provided by the company. Let's say that a company doesn't maintain the records that were used to train the model. In that case, what usually happens is we need to fill that data type with blank values or mean values. So instead of doing that, we can retrain our model easily without that much hardware tuning, or we can, what I'm saying is basically we can automate the process, since we've used many number of base learners. These are the few references that were used in making this paper and presentation. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Jay, for your Sanjay, for your presentation. I just had a few observations, if you could just clarify them. So I did not understand, what do you mean by stacked ensemble? Like, have you used one classifier on top of the other? Then I would call it a stacking. Or are you talking about when you have divided your data into one after the other? That is what you're calling as a k-fold validation, is where you mentioned the word stacking.
Yes, ma'am. It uses the k-fold approach, but it doesn't use k-fold validation. Since there are 2 layers, we need to train first the base learners and next the meta learner. So,
so that's what you're calling as stacking, because
yes,
that would not exactly qualify as a stack. So stack would be a very different term. Second thing I wanted to ask you is that what have you done to ensure that your data is not overfitting? I couldn't see any technique used by you, whether it's dropout, whether it's using a validation data set, and the accuracy also that you've got is not very encouraging, and 83% accuracy is not very good if you are talking about a neural network model. So
it is not ma'am, it is not a neural network model, ma'am. Basically,
yeah, right. See, you are doing an ensemble model using, you are not using a voting classifier. Also, you are training using certain models, and then finally throwing your trained features into a random forest classifier, right? That's what I could understand.
Yes, ma'am. It basically works as dynamic weighted voting approach, ma'am. So in weighted
voting, but I couldn't see voting approach anywhere, because when you say dynamic voting approach, I don't understand the need of having a random forest classifier at the end layer. So
what we have done is we basically explored every algorithm. And we basically
see, that's what everybody does today in machine learning. You know, everybody tries everything, then comes out with something and then says that, okay, now I'm going to mix and match these two. My point is an ensemble followed by a random forest. Have you read a literature like that somewhere where after ensembling, you are using a traditional classifier? So what does your ensemble actually give you that I'm not able to?
No, ma'am. In the ensemble stacking ensemble, in ensemble method, basically there is voting, no, ma'am. So in
right.
stacking,
So let's say I gave a tuple inside one employee's record I gave inside.
yes,
So
ma'am.
the majority vote was given to decision tree because it classified that particular tuple correctly. I don't know how many classes of classifier do you have, or what prediction are you ultimately doing at the end. That also is not clear here.
Yes, ma'am. That I'll explain, ma'am. So let's say you give a tuple, ma'am, which has the input variables, and what these will do is the data is thrown into these base learners parallelly, and they each give predictions such as yes, no, or whatever. And using these predictions and the data.
How many prediction classes do you have in the end? Is it just yes and no?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. In this yes and no.
So my point is, let's say you have given a tuple and 5 of them say yes and 3 of them say no. So now how does a voting classifier come into picture
now
here?
There is one more feature, ma'am, called as pass-through. So in stacking, we use pass-through. So along with the predictions of this, the input data is passed as well. So when we do this, what our meta model will identify is, it will inherently create a subsets of data for which, let's say, logistic regression performs best. And for another subsets of data, let's say Gaussian naive Bayes performs best. So even though for a subset of data, majority of them are saying no, if it is saying as yes, it will give preference to logistic regression. That is what I mean by dynamic weighted voting approach.
That is true, son. But by the end of the day, you are again giving it to a random forest classifier. So my suggestion to you, please rework on your model, because justifying after ensemble using a traditional classifier which was giving you good accuracy, it means nothing, no, because ultimately you are using a random forest classifier to give you the final prediction.
No, ma'am. When we used individual models and we tuned it, we didn't get good accuracy and recall score, ma'am.
So can you show me what is the accuracy with just using a random forest classifier?
For that, we got around 81%, ma'am. And
81 and 83 is not too much of a difference. See the amount of
89,
computation cost.
We got accuracy of 89.
Yeah, right. But see the amount of computation cost that you're causing. So the tussle is always between algorithmic complexity vis-a-vis how much accuracy are you getting. So my just suggestion to you, of course you are doing research on this, is that I have not heard somebody doing something like this ever. When you use an ensemble, ensemble is in itself a powerful classifier. You do not use a traditional classifier post an ensembling. So probably you can just justify it more with the literature survey that you're going to do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
right?
ma'am. In this, like I said, they've used ensemble method. Basically, this one they use weighted ensemble method, where they use 3 methods and they gave 0.4 more weightage to support vector machine and less weightage to these two. And for this paper, they got accuracy of 84%, ma'am. And for this paper, they got accuracy of 83%, ma'am. Just by for this, they've just used weighted or just normal.
Yeah, but this is a purely ensemble classifier. It does not use probably a traditional one after it. So the whole aim of ensemble is nullified when you are again throwing it to a normal classifier. That's what my understanding. As much as I know machine learning, I may not be as big an expert like you, but that's what my understanding.
You're on the right track, ma'am. But what I think you're missing is the reason we use meta learner is not as a basic model, ma'am. It uses the meta knowledge that has been acquired from these base learners and also from the input data.
You are not using base learners for feature extraction, son. That you have to understand. There are no features which you are learning through the ensemble classifier.
Yes, ma'am.
It is just giving you a classification on the basis of that. So I think we have overshot the time. This is just my input for you.
Yes, ma'am.
You can probably
Ma'am,
rethink it.
I couldn't explain it better, ma'am, due to
That's
time.
perfectly fine. No, you've justified, but just my input to you. You can probably look at it again. Okay. Thank
Yes,
you so much for your presentation. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your
Yeah.
suggestion.
So next, I would like to invite Arun Kumar for giving his presentation on improving the detection of retinopathy with the Roberts cross-edge detection.
Ma'am, I think he's absent.
Okay, he's absent. So we move on to the next one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So next, I would like to invite Komal Nair for presenting her work on error detection and error concealment. Error detection and error concealment of medical images using frequency selective extrapolation algorithm.
Hello.
Yes, Komal, please start.
Hello.
Yes, you can start your presentation.
Yes, please start your presentation.
Yeah, good evening all. The title of our paper is Error Detection and Error Concealment of Medical Images Using Frequency Selective Algorithm. The authors of this paper are Rajni, Komal, Neha, and Rupali. So I'll directly start with what basically is our paper all about. As we know that COVID-19 has been a worldwide pandemic since December 2019. Due to its uncontrolled transmission, there has been considerable load on healthcare facilities, and we feel the need for rapid increase in testing. So we need to devise a method through which we can do efficient mass testing. So the proposed model basically of which this paper is going to be a part of is to replace the conventional methods of testing. So now the current testing standards are RT-PCR and RAT, and they have their own set of drawbacks as it increases government expenditure, and it has also been an unpleasant experience for many of the test takers. So what this paper will help to aim at is that we can usually detect this COVID-19 or pneumonia patients from the analysis of X-ray images. So X-ray images can be analyzed from any location, and then a prediction can be made whether the person is suffering from COVID or any other respiratory disease. So so these were some of the papers that we refer to. The first paper, it talks about how the image will be transferred from a remote location, and since the image is being transmitted from a remote location, it will be prone to having a lot of errors in it. So image processing has to be done on that image, and the image has to be completed, it has to be rectified, and after the rectification is done, the machine learning algorithm will be trained on it. And the other papers, the most important paper from which we have derived our idea is the fourth paper, Implementation of Video Error Concealment Using Block Matching Algorithm. So this paper basically talks about how the errors will be concealed in a transmitted image, and the image will be recovered, and then it will be given to the machine learning algorithm for the analysis. So this is how the SIG for this project is signal processing. So as we can see that detection of all the possible transmission errors will be done. Then it will be sent, the image will be sent to one error concealment algorithm where the errors will be concealed. And then it will be given to the entire COVID detection, that is the machine learning algorithm which is happening over here. And then we can come to the conclusion whether what exactly is the outcome, whether the person is normal or is suffering from COVID-19 or is suffering from pneumonia. So these are some of the research work that we have done. This is the algorithm for error detection. As we can see from the image that the original image is transmitted, and then After the error detection algorithm works on it, we come to know that yes, it is a noised image, and these are some of the patches which needs to be concealed. So after we come to know that these are some of the patches that we need to conceal, and an approximation has to be made so that the missing parts will be replaced by it, a substitution is needed. For that, we give the image to the error concealment block. So what the error concealment, how the error concealment works is through frequency selective extrapolation. So what exactly it is, that the image content, okay, let's say if the image is having one missing patch, then the surrounding area is approximated and a substitution is made accordingly. So the image content of the correctly received surrounding block, it is approximated, and a weighted linear combination of the basis functions and missing block is obtained, and it is substituted over that missing patch. So this is the mathematics behind it. So the images, we took a database, and from that we took a lot of images of normal patient, pneumonia patients and COVID patients. As we can see, when the image was transmitted from a remote location, the error patches were identified. So as we can see on the left hand side, the image over there, a lot of missing blocks are can be observed. These blocks indicate that some rectification has to be performed on these areas. After frequency selective extrapolation algorithm works on it, then the missing patches is concealed. And also some mathematical analysis has been done on the rectified images, and we can see that these are some of the image quality analysis parameters like mean squared error, entropy, peak signal noise ratio, structured similarity index, and so on. So upon comparing these values, we can see that in the erroneous images, this is the analysis of normal patients X-ray. So in the over here we can see that the mean squared error, it is supposed to be low in a good image. So when FSE was applied on the erroneous image, we can see that the MSE got reduced, the entropy also got reduced, and PSNR is supposed to increase for a good quality image, so we can see that it got increased. Then the SSIM also, SSIM is basically how much the rectified image resembles the original image. So that parameter also has shown to be increased considerably. So this was the analysis performed for an average values were cumulated. And as such, we can see that a lot of improvement has been done from erroneous to error concealed images. And so similar analysis has been performed for pneumonia patients X-rays as well, and COVID-19 patients X-ray also. So we can see over here that the percentage also has been obtained. So MSE reduces by 99.66%. Then average PSNR, it improves by 76.61%. SSIM also improves by 3.6%. So what basically are the conclusions we derive from this is we need lower value of MSE, which can be obtained through FSC. That is why we chose this algorithm. Then the ratio of original and the compressed image, that is PSNR, also is supposed to be high. So FSC helped us to obtain that. And SSIM, as I said, is how much the rectified image resembles the original image. That analysis, when we performed, it also showed to be quite good. It is usually lying in the ranges of 0.97, 0.98, and 0.99, which indicates good quality reconstruction. And this is just after this entire process has been done, we go to the next phase, that is detection of COVID-19. So this part has not been included in the paper, but this is one of the applications of how these two things can be used further. So using machine learning algorithm, when the rectified image is passed to this block, we can see that after importing certain libraries, after data processing and so on, detection of normal pneumonic and COVID-19 patients can be done. So these are the final results that we obtain after this. And upon improving the quality of the images, we came across the conclusion that machine learning algorithm was able to detect even more precisely than the images that were not rectified. That is why error detection and error concealment becomes extremely important. So these were some of the references that we refer to. So thank you for the. Hello?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Komal, for your presentation. Thank you. You may stop sharing the screen.
Okay.
Just two queries which I had for you. One is that though you are dealing with images, why did you not use a convolutional neural network, which is considered as a preferred choice in such cases, and you used a machine learning algorithm for the same?
Because machine learning let's say this device, when it comes into effect, it'll be used by the healthcare workers for immediate prediction of the disease. So most of the times it happens that if we explain a complex algorithm to people who are not really aware of machine learning algorithms and so on, then it becomes extremely difficult. Let's say if I start explaining a doctor or a healthcare worker about this convolution networks and so on, so it'll be
No. See, when you build a holistic system, you don't discuss the background or the backend that you have developed.
Yeah.
My point is, when we consider images, the current, entire research on images is about using convolutional neural networks for the process of feature extraction, so that the amount of data that you're processing by the end of the day gets reduced quite a lot. But you really couldn't justify the need of a machine learning algorithm when we have advanced and enhanced techniques available today.
Yeah.
Right. So you can just try that. You can probably use some basic convolutional neural network if your algorithm or your technique does not demand very high, very deep neural networks, but you can use a basic AlexNet architecture for performing this. Also, second thing, you have got very high MSC values, somewhere around 400 or 500. That's what I could see.
Yes.
But when you show them using PSNR or SSIM, it is very I couldn't understand why are you showing MSC values as very, very high, or why have they come very high, and then suddenly your SSIM becomes somewhere around 0.96 or something like that. How do you justify these two different results?
The PSNR and SSIM, they usually lie within those ranges, but MSC could be from 0 to infinity.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. If there is so much of error that you're getting, how are you getting such, a PSNR between 0 to 40 decibels is considered as very good. So if you get a 40 decibel PSNR, means the images are very, very similar. But your PSNR and the SSIM values are also not in sync with each other. So a 40 value of PSNR may correspond to somewhere around 0.96 or 0.97 of SSIM. Probably you can look there also, that you have to justify how come the values are varying so much, right? It's not just about getting the results, it's about justifying them also, right? So on the basis of your data, or on the basis of what pre-processing techniques have you used, or what features have you used, you should be able to justify your results, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Komal.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Dinesh for his presentation on wireless sensor network-based automation of irrigation in India.
Thank you, ma'am. May I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Oh, is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. Please go ahead.
Okay. So here I am to discuss my topic, that is wireless sensor network-based automation irrigation in India. My research is design a complete Android application where we can control our farm from remote areas and smoothing the agriculture process. My guide is Ankit sir, and I am from JLS University, Ahmedabad. In this paper, we are discussing the current scenarios of agriculture and my proposed architecture, as well as implementation module on automation of irrigation water. So agendas was the discuss the current state of Indian agriculture, challenges with Indian farmers, and wireless sensor network-based integrated architecture, as well as automation of irrigation process. So, if we look into the current state of Indian agriculture sectors and we talk about the land and water resources, so a majority of pure water is consumed by the irrigation only. It's about 360 cubic meter water is used by only irrigation purpose. So, and that requirement is increase will be increased by day or year by year. So, we talk about percentage wise. Agriculture sector consume 83%, industry consume 12%, and domestic sector consume 5%. So, the major or primary sector that consume the water is the agriculture sector only, and it will increase rapidly. So how we can manage the this water consumption by agriculture sector? Actually, that water is not only impact the productivity of crop also. If we talk about the traditional method in which flooding the water in the farm, that deficiate the nutrition also. So in our module, we want to manage the agriculture sector with the some wireless sensor networks. Like we want to challenge, uh, cut out the challenges like poor irrigation management, lack of crop monitoring system, poor soil information, lack of plant disease detection, and poor weather prediction method. These are the uh, scenarios where we can deploy our sensors and somehow we can control them. And this is the architecture that I already proposed in my previous papers. In this paper, I am talking about this providing the water uh, on the basis of soil moisture value. So we are using a Arduino board that connected with the soil moisture soil moisture sensors that implemented in the farm, and that moisture value is passed to the microcontroller, and microcontroller detect that the soil has a lower moisture value or higher moisture value. On the basis of that, the water motor will be automatically on or off, and farmer will get a notification in their mobile applications. So we use an Arduino board, and we can use Node MCU for Wi-Fi connectivity. Uh, so we can pass the data that sensor get, and that data is controlled, stored in process in the Arduino board, and that Arduino board send the signals to the water motor to on or off. So this moisture sensor is implemented in the farms, and based on the soil and quality need of that plant, we this microcontroller decided that how much water that soil is needed, and on the basis of need, we process the program, and that program control the water motor to automatically on or off that motor. So after implementing this entire architecture, we can say that the uh, we can save the water, and we can increase our productivity in the farms. Yes, ma'am.
Are you done, Dinesh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can stop presenting your screen.
Wait a second.
Yes. Yeah. Could you just tell me what is this system designed for a specific plant, or you are considering all kinds of plants in this system?
We are designing a general system, but we can configure according to the plant or according to the area where we implement that sensors.
No, you are implementing it in what kind of system? What plant?
Generally, we are making it for general plant. It means we can use for maize, we can use for any other plant. Any
But
other
Dinesh,
crop.
are you aware that every different kind of a plant has different requirements as far as water, moisture content? For instance, if I have a program designed for strawberry, that will not work for tulip, that will not work for maize.
Yeah, but we can configure that for which plant we are implementing at a particular farm field.
As of now, what plant are you implementing it for?
We are testing on wheat.
On wheat, okay. And what is your area like? How big is the area that you are able to control right now?
Right now we are designing a protocol, so we are in a 2-3 square meter only.
Okay,
Not
you
on
mean
a,
to say a
on,
potted plant you are
yes,
currently doing it on.
yes, yes,
So are you a PhD student or a BTech student?
PhD student, ma'am.
Okay, because see why I asked this question, because this kind of a project recently a BTech student of mine has done. So probably you need to increase the scope of your project quite a lot. So you are using Node NCO, which is like you can simulate the same thing on IBM also.
Yes,
This is an IBM. If you work on IBM cloud, there is a complete IoT based system which you can implement, where you can do all this by writing just 4 lines of code. That's it. So probably what I could suggest that the scope of your project is too less, and using an Arduino board where you have such sophisticated hardware available today, you may look at an NVIDIA Jetson Nano, which has a higher processing speed and which can connect to a lot of different sensors. And you can also look at, as I told you, integrating multiple kind of crops, because
yes,
till now all BTech studies or all BTech projects, they focus on either a strawberry plant or on wheat or something like that. So probably you can go beyond that and look at something bigger also,
okay,
right?
sure,
And
ma'am.
also I could not see any literature survey when you presented your work. So that's very, very important when you are a PhD candidate, for you to show some kind of a literature that you have done till now.
It is contained in my paper, but actually forgot to include into
Just
the
one odd
PPT.
slide will always, make the
Okay,
presentation.
sure,
Thank you
ma'am.
so very much. Thanks, Dinesh.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. Next, I would like to invite Veenu Varghese to present her paper on design of mini games for assessing computational thinking. Present his paper. Sorry, Veenu, I stand corrected. Well, your mic is muted. Could you just unmute yourself?
Sorry. Okay,
Veenu can be a girl and a boy also.
yeah,
So my
fine.
apologies.
It's okay. It's okay. Not bad. Thank you for the invitation. Good evening, everyone. So I just share my screen right now. So is my presentation visible?
Yeah, it's visible. Please go ahead.
Okay. So myself, Veenu Varghese, and along with Dr. Ganamol VG, who is the co-author of this particular research paper, I am presenting a design for minigame for assessing computational thinking. My paper ID is 288. The content of my presentation are what is computational thinking, research areas in computational thinking, video games in education sector, relationship between video games and CT, proposed design, limitation, conclusion, and future work and references. And for your information, I'll be facing a bit till my proposed design because of the limited time. So typically, computational thinking can be set as an approach that solves problems, build systems, and understand human behavior that draws the power and limitation of computing. Actually, it was quoted by Janet M. Wing in 2006. Who is a researcher that popularized this concept, even though this concept was actually introduced by Jean Piaget in his book Mindstorm in 1970s. Okay, so typically computational thinking is a set of skills related to problem solving, algorithmic thinking, and so on, that is directly aligned to the 21st century skills which are required by students to survive in this particular day and age. Okay, so the major research in computational thinking, which is referred to as CT from here on, is the CT skill development or fostering of CT and CT skill assessment or assessment of CT skills based on some certain scaffolded methodologies. So based on the literature, we have identified many papers that does this CT skill development and CT skill assessment. Gidget and Scratch is one of the two of those papers, whereas for CT assessment, WebRAS, which is an international test taken by many countries, and fair assessment, which is another software-based assessment technique that can be used to measure the CT skill of students. So moving on, the role of video games is actually studied by many literatures, and it says that video games can be used to teach a specific concept, and the literature on video games is actually divided into serious games and mini games for educational purposes. The serious games are actually higher level of games which implements complex concepts or teaches complex concepts, which was actually implemented from 1970s, typically for military education, and on the later day and age or on the later years it was adapted for the educational purposes, whereas mini games can be set as a stripped down version of a serious games which are easier to implement and can be used to teach a specific concept which are also cost effective. So video games related to CT based on the recent literature studies, we can say that I have or we have identified like around 7 or 10 papers that implement game-based assessment of CT skills, and Blue and Code is one of that paper, which utilizes an for educational game scenario. So coming to my proposed architecture, I have just created a design in which we have a user interface, a game engine, an assessment engine, a scoring system, and a log analyzer used for assessing computational thinking for students. Okay, so in this particular, based on this particular architecture, we have designed wireframes for around 12 games which are listed in this particular slide. So I won't be naming all those things. Anyway, I will explain the functionality of each in the upcoming slides. So based on this particular wireframe set one, we have coffee maker in which there are ingredients for making coffee which need to be categorized into three categories like grocery, utensils, and appliances. And if the user drags and drop the corresponding items into the proper category, then he will be awarded a perfect score. So similarly, we have jigsaw puzzle, which will be completing a picture puzzle. We have a sorting game in which bubble sort is implemented and user can swap the elements of the tiles or numbers using the temp variable provided. Then we have shortest path game in which the game weights are given and the user can select the shortest path based on the distance directly displayed in the window. On our second set, we have an electricity calculator that will provide a switchboard interface, and the user have to set a specific voltage based on the voltage specification inside the switches. Now we have wash the clothes game in which the user have to program the washing machine interface to for a specific set of washing instruction that we have provided. Now we have a plumbing puzzle game in which the water source from a source to destination have to be aligned based on solving the water problem. Now we have another classical game which is Pac-Man, or we can say this is a stripped down version of a Pac-Man in which the user have to collect berries without encountering the difficulties or ghosts. And for our third set, we have yet again another classical game which is called Maze Runner, which can in which the user have to guide a particular input or a user from source to destination. Then we have water puzzle game in which there are certain jars which are connected and not connected jar. And when the water source is open, the user have to identify which water jug is filled first. Then finally, we have Konigsberg bridge puzzle. So it divides or it has a certain number of streams or rivers colored in black, and the user have to place bridges so as to meet our specific standards. And finally, we have decode the string, which is a cipher puzzle based on substitution cipher, and the user have to decode the string based on the table provided. So these were the prototypes of games that we have developed typically on the design phase only. And based on these games, we are planning to assess core CT skills such as abstraction, decomposition, pattern recognition, and algorithmic thinking that has been identified from relevant literature. As you may know that there are many other CT skills that are associated with measurement of CT, but we have selected these four only because there is a consensus among the researchers from the literature that these skills are mandatory for assessing computational thinking skill. So based on these literature work and based on our own knowledge, we have created a mapping of game to skill in which each game, if a skill is present, then that skill is mapped as X, and if the skill is not present, then it is mapped as null. Okay, so based on the computational thinking skill and the framework based on the Brennan and Resnick's work in the literature, we have also identified some of the programming sequences that are required or that have been identified inside the gameplay, which include sequences, loops, events, conditionals, operators, and data. So these have also been mapped, and based on these two mapping, we have also created a rubric in which if a particular skill is present and the user solved that particular game, a particular point will be awarded to the user. And finally, we have considered the point or added the point to reach a 100-point score, 25 each for each particular CT skills that we have identified. So the game mechanics is relatively simple. It is using drag and drop, single selection and repeated selection. So we didn't implement any complex game mechanics so that we can reduce the cognitive load of the students. And the limitations of the work is that presumably our mapping, typically our CT to CT skills to game mapping, our programming concept to game mapping, and our rubrics is based on the data and knowledge identified from the literature and based on our own knowledge itself. So we need to validate these kind of data, then only it will be a substantial research work. So an expert feedback mechanism and validatory study has been planned in the next session of the research. And similarly to the game rubric also, it's a fixed goal. Typically a game will be having different difficulty based on the targeted audience, and so we need to also update the rubric on the next stage of the development. So for the conclusion and on future work, we say that we have proposed this scaffolding that can be used for measuring CT skills in students based on mini games as a medium. And we have also mapped the CT skills programming constructs and also created a game rubrics for CT assessment. And for future work, we can say that we would like to validate all these claims by statistical inferences. And we will also like to do an empirical evaluation to prove that this model actually works with the students. So with this, I am concluding my work. These are some of the references, and I am open for questions and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vinu. A very new concept that you are trying to work out on.
Yeah.
So my only one query that you are using Unity 2D, whereas we have sophisticated softwares like Unity 3D also today. Or let's say for game designing, people would try to use an NVIDIA platform, which is a high performance GPUs where you write codes on them. Why have you gone with a traditional Unity 2D architecture or language to design these games of yours? Any specific reason to that?
Actually, it is like time constraint, ma'am. Because I am the only one who is doing the research and also the development too. So we don't have any funded work. So I find it for if I didn't know Unity 2D first. So it took me like around a year to get the basics of this game development and all. Yeah. So the thing is that I will just start in Unity 2D, and if I find it appropriate, and I will just change it to an appropriate platform on the next iteration.
Yeah, fine. Thank you so very much. Thanks.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
And all the best. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Bye. Take care.
Now, I would like to invite Ms. Sanskriti for presenting her work on vehicle cluster development.
Good evening. I'd like to share my screen.
Yeah.
Good evening, one and all present here. So let me introduce myself first. I'm Sanskriti Raut from MIT World Peace University, Pune. And today I'm going to present my research paper on vehicle cluster development. My co-authors for this project are Shravani Navre and Vanita Tang. Let me begin by telling you the outline of this project. I'll first talk about the introduction, then followed by a block diagram and the working of the system, then system implementation, followed by the model in loop, software in loop, hardware in loop, and then the conclusion. Okay, so what is a vehicle cluster development? Cars instrument cluster that displays various indicators and enables the driver to operate the vehicle is known as vehicle cluster. Vehicle cluster. It often consists of various parameters like a speedometer, odometer, tachometer, oil pressure gauge, fuel gauge, etc. Now, what is the function of a vehicle cluster? Vehicle cluster is used to keep the driver informed about the most current information as they drive. The gauges provide information for speed, distance, heat, and fuel. Indicators also provide warnings and updates like check engine light and low fuel light, and different vehicles have different warnings available. The aim of this research is to develop a cluster with three-level GUI using a touchscreen LCD for display. The objective was of the project is to develop a design with focus on driver's requirement, and the design should be easy to comprehend and only necessary information should be displayed. So I'd like to tell you about the block diagram and the working of this of the system. So we have used OBD2 adapter for fetching the real-time inputs from the car. Once the inputs are fetched, we give the inputs to the microcontroller, that is Arduino Uno. After that, after the information is fetched by the microcontroller, the real-time inputs are displayed on an LCD touchscreen display. The working of the project works the same, as you can see. For the system implementation, the project has been divided into 3 parts, namely MIL, SIL, and Agile. That is model in loop, software in loop, and hardware in loop methodology. So in this, for this research, we have followed a particular methodology, which is model in loop, in which we have used MATLAB's Simulink software for all the simulations. In software in loop, we have used MATLAB's GUI, that is MATLAB's app designer for graphic user interface. And for agile methodology, for hardware implementation, we have used OBD2 Bluetooth adapter, Arduino Uno, and HC05 Bluetooth module. Now I will like to tell you about the model in loop methodology. In this methodology, we refer to MATLAB's MathWorks model on automotive 4-gear gear method, and in this we simulated the model for 4 inputs, that is speedometer, tachometer, gear indicator, and brake indicator. This particular simulation is divided into 2 parts. One is for all the 4 inputs that we are giving, and one is for the ambient temperature. There are 2 parts of the circuits. This is further divided into, now this simulation, we have used brake and throttle inputs. 4 inputs have been given for test scenarios. First is the gradual acceleration, where no brakes are applied and the car is gradually accelerating. Second one is the passing maneuver, where the driver is allowed to maintain a desired speed on 2-lane highways. The third one is hard braking, where a sudden brakes are pressed in situations where you need to stop the vehicle immediately to avoid any mishap. And the fourth one is coasting, where the driver is defined, where the driver is either holds the clutch pedal down, or when the car is in neutral mode. So this is the result of our simulation. As you can see, all the parameters are working. Then we move forward to the software in loop implementation. Now in software in loop implementation, it is divided into 2 parts, the design view and the code view. MATLAB's app designer has various components where all the gauges and buttons are present. So with the help of the drag and drop methodology, we design a digital dashboard for automobile, and taking into consideration all the parameters. Then we had to write a C code, an object-oriented code for it to work. As you can see in the picture. So we designed the dashboard using MATLAB's GUI. For doing the same, we took the data set from Simulinks, using the Simulinks data inspector. So all the information then was further fed into an Excel sheet and was given as an input for the implementation of the GUI. So the GUI is designed for all the 4 inputs that were mentioned before for the model and loop methodology. We use different gauges and suitable display for the results. And all the GUI results, the GUI fetches the data from the data set and displays the result on the respective gauges. So this is the result for the software in loop methodology. So in this, we have used, when we press the hard braking button, as you can see, all the gauges are working. Then further, we moved on towards the hardware in loop methodology, where we integrated the hardware. So after we tested our project on the Simulink, we did test our software and our code, and then we further deployed the hardware. So this is the final card dashboard that you can see, and this is the hardware setup. For hardware, we used the microcontroller Arduino Uno. We use HC05 Bluetooth modules for serial communication, full duplex serial communication, and an LCD touchscreen display for displaying the results. The OBD2 for Bluetooth adapter ELM37 was used, which fetched all the data from the car and then further displays the result on the LCD screen. The challenges that we faced were in the hardware in loop methodology, where we had to use the version 2 for HC05, which wasn't readily available in the market, because HC05, we figured that HC05 version, the latest version of HC05 wasn't compatible with the microcontroller, and the AT commands weren't working. So this way we figured out the challenges, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanskriti, for your presentation. So when you say vehicle cluster development, is it basically some kind of a clustering algorithm that you have applied, or what exactly have you done? I couldn't understand the meaning of this cluster development that you're talking about.
Okay. So vehicle cluster is nothing but the digital dashboard that we see in an automobile. So what we have tried to do is we've made a digital dashboard for automobile. So development in the sense, now we can see traditionally we use analog gauges, right? So we have here tried to make a digital, affordable and durable digital dashboard for automobiles. So that's what it means.
Yeah, but don't you feel that the current cars which are coming, none of them now has an analog dashboard? We have already moved to digital dashboards long time back. So where is the innovation that you have brought in your system?
Exactly.
You can stop sharing the screen.
Okay. So the current cars do not, in India still this particular methodology is not implemented completely. We can see it outside the, in the world, this is currently happening, but we have tried to make it more cost friendly and durable. So by using this particular method, we can reduce the cost.
When you say I have made it cost effective, where have you done a comparative analysis of what current cost is and what cost your system costs? And have you also checked the robustness, the accuracy, the correctness of your system? Because when you were showing the dashboard, I could see that the fuel level was always 0. So if the fuel level is 0, is your dashboard exactly accurate? And when you say that the cars abroad, but the manufacturer remains the same, whether it's Honda in Japan or Honda in India, the dashboard remains the same, it doesn't change. So my suggestion to you would be, please see the innovation that you're doing in your project. Vis-a-vis, where is the application? You know, you are talking about a very big thing. And also, I really don't know, in today's world, when we are talking about systems which run on GPUs and all, why would somebody use a primitive kind of a development platform called MATLAB? So are you a computer engineering student?
I am an electronics and communication engineering student.
Yeah, but then you would not prefer to use a MATLAB based platform for developing something like this, okay? Because there are very, very sophisticated platforms which you can use today. One of them being Python, which has got everything that you require bundled together in a very, very robust language as compared to MATLAB. So you can also look at that. And when you talk about such things that it's cost effective, you must also justify it with a comparative analysis. You can just take a single car and say its dashboard was earlier, the analog dashboard was this, the digital dashboard that we've created is like this. This is the, this is how the look, feel, and the cost effectiveness of the car has changed. We cannot just say that it is cost effective. There has to be some kind of a, collaboration also using facts and figures where we say that. It's a very novel idea. Okay. Please highlight what is the novelty in what you are doing. Okay, that's very important. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for the suggestions. Thank you. I'll take a note of it. Thank you.
So that's it, Jay. Can we just wind up the session?
I just have a request.
Yeah.
Is it okay to ask for your official mail ID?
Yeah, sure. You can note it down. I'll just write it in the chat.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. We must help each other. That's what we are here for. That's what conferences are for. So we connect, we learn from each other, and we get back to each other with any queries that we have. I'll be happy to help any help that you require.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
I would like to request ma'am to do session remarks.
So with the presentation of Miss Sanskriti, we come to the conclusion of this session 9B in our conference, 6th International Conference on ICTCS-2021 and SmartCom-2021. So we saw a range of topics being covered, right from how you can use contextual senses approach for designing a search engine, to multi-level inverters, how can we design a new one with pulse wave modulation, to wireless body area networks, where we are trying to control environment from an ICU and sending appropriate data to the nurses station, to how ensemble methods can be used for recruitment or stopping attrition of the employees. We also looked at error detection and error concealment of medical images by using frequency selective extrapolation algorithm, and then a very good method of how we can boost the agricultural productivity by incorporation of IoT with various machine learning techniques, as well as a very interesting take on how computational thinking can be used for in game technology, or how we can develop games using computational thinking. And the last topic, the paper that was presented, was on the on development of a vehicle cluster, or a digital dashboard as we commonly call it. So it's lovely to see people are doing research in multiple domains, but let us also remember that interdisciplinary research is gaining a lot of impetus, a lot of momentum. So we must collaborate with each other and try to understand how various disciplines are related to each other, and how can we bring research together such that every discipline or different people benefit from what we are doing. So with this, I wish all the presenters all the best. Wonderful presentation done by all of you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next year's conference as well. Thank you. Over to you, Jay.
I appreciate all the participants to their excellent presentation in this session, and all the participants for the part of being interested conference. I was the session was informative enough. All participants would be getting their digital certificate through email with 2 working days. Further, all the papers are already forwarded to the Springer for publication. The publication will be live within 5 to 6 months. Kindly cooperate to the team with ICTCS and SmartCom-2021. Now, at the last, I would like to request, thank our session chair. Just a minute. Professor Meenakshi Arya for chairing the session. Ma'am, this is a token of appreciation behalf of Global Knowledge Foundation, SmartCom and ICTCS. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much.
At the last, I request all to turn on their camera for a quick snapshot to keep a good memory of this session. Please turn on your camera. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jay, one more short
Yes.
question. Like, is there a possibility of our paper getting rejected after this?
No, sir.
No.
Okay, fine. That's good to hear.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank
Please
you.
take
Stay safe. Take care.
Take care now. Bye.